Hey there, CJ Math students, and welcome to your Aspire Prep classwork notes for today. So some of these problems could be something that you see on the Aspire. Well, they'll give you like a word problem, and then you have to use your background knowledge. So it's always good to use the point of entry. So anything that I've written on the page, you should probably go ahead and write as well. So let's do this first unit problem, rate problem together. So a 14-ounce energy drink, highlight that, contains 10.5 teaspoons of sugar, highlight that. How much sugar is in 1 ounce of drink? So it's a unit rate, we can use ratios. If we take a look at our ounces, we know that we have 14 of them, 14-ounce drink, and sugar, we have 10.5, we could say that's 10.5, right? And then we want to know how much is in 1 ounce. 1 ounce is at the top, so we got to figure out the sugar at the bottom. We can go ahead and cross multiply to try and go ahead and solve this. So 14 times x gives you 14x. 10.5 times 1 gives you 10.5. And then you're just going to go ahead and divide both sides by 14. When you do that, it cancels out, and you get your answer of x is equal to 0.75. So you got 0.75 or 3/4 teaspoons of sugar per ounce of drink, right? All right, let's take a look at number sense. So our point of entry with number sense is we're always looking at like the operations. What can we do? So if it says on Tuesday, the value of a stock decreased by 0.5 point. On Wednesday, the value increased by 3/4 of a point. On Thursday, the value decreased by 3/8 of a point. What integer represents the stock change after the 3 days? So obviously the decrease, the increase are keywords. We might want to say keywords as well there. That tell us to decrease is negative, increase is positive, and so we're just going to add that up. When we do operations with fractions, obviously we have to make sure that we have common denominators. So the common denominator of all these with a denominator of 8 would be to make them all 8. So 1/2 I'm going to multiply by 4, because 4 times 2 is 8. 3/4 we'll multiply by 2, because 2 times 4 is 8. And then the 3/8 I can leave the same. So we have a negative 4 over 8 plus 6 over 8 plus negative 3 over 8. You can use the commutative property and rearrange this stuff around. Put the negatives next to each other because that's SSAK problem. And when you do that, you get negative 7/8, because that's what negative 4 plus negative 3/8 is, plus 6/8, and that gives your answer, obviously, of negative 1/8 point. So the stock overall is down, right? Equations and expressions. It says the dance committee has budget of $125 to decorate. Highlight that. That means if you have a budget of that much money, you can't go over that. So when you're talking about an inequality, which this problem asks for, you're going to use inequality signs. So you're going to use a less than sign, meaning I can't go over $125. They've already spent $65, and some members want to buy helium balloons that cost 80 cents each. So those are the things that you should highlight, right? And solve an inequality to show the number of balloons that the dance committee could buy. So basically an inequality is very similar to an equation, except instead of having an equal sign, you're going to have an inequality sign that tells you that your answer could range either less than the answer you get or greater than the number you get. So we go ahead and solve this. We start by adding a negative 65 to both sides. We get 0.80x is equal to 60, and then go ahead and divide by 0.80, and you get your answer of x is, oops, I shouldn't say equals, my fault, I should be keeping the inequality sign, so is less than, x is less than 75, so that means you can buy as many balloons as you want, up to 75 balloons, and then as soon as you go past 75 balloons, then you're over budget. So x is less than 75 balloons. For this geometry problem, it says angles P and Q are supplementary. Remember, we learned that supplementary is two angles that add up to 180 degrees. If you forgot, go back to your notes right before break. If angle P is equal to 30 degrees, what is the measurement of angle Q? So I've drawn this diagram here. You should draw it as well. You should write down your point of entry to say, hey, supplementary is 180. I'm going to write an equation. So I have P is equal to 30 degrees. What's Q? That's simply 30 plus x equals 180. Why 180? Because they were supplementary. So I'll go ahead and add negative 30 to both sides. And in this case, I get my answer of 150. So the measurement of angle Q is 150 degrees. Right. This last one, the statistics problem, it says which of the following stats measures the variability of distribution. You just have to know the definitions here, so I'm helping you out. The definition of mean is just the average. You add them all up, divide by how many you have. The mode is the one that occurs the most. The median is the middle of an ordered set. The range is the distance of the distribution of the data. So D is your answer, right? The range can tell you if your data is like bell curved, or there's more data over here, some data over there. It tells you how far the data reaches and the variability of the data, if you would. So your answer there is D. And that's the end of part 1. Make sure you go back through, and anything that you don't have written down on your paper that I have written down on my paper should be written down on your paper.